We'll now have another Q&A about university preparation, which will be followed by the event. Sister Yasmin will continue her presentation after the Salah. Any questions?
What time is prayer?
It's
almost 8:17. So 10
7
minutes.
minutes?
Yeah.
Mm.
No, sorry, the adhan is 8:17, 10 minutes.
Okay.
Any questions for Sister Sada?
So I know that about the MSA, but I don't know exactly like the system and like how it works. So maybe you elaborate on that.
So I think Yasmin would be better suited to answer that question because weren't you like a vice president?
Yeah. So the Muslim Student Association, what they do is they try to tailor the university experience towards the Muslim students that are attending. So, and depending on what university you go to, it can be completely different. But generally what they help with is they provide a space for prayer, right? So you have students go in and they pray, before and after class. They do their best to also create events so that, Muslim students have a place to go aside from class or university. So they try to make halaqas. We have Islam Awareness Week, which some of you might be aware of. Usually happens for an entire week. They select a month, and they just do as many Islamic events as possible. They try to carry that out throughout the year too, but that's really when most Muslim students will be available. They try to bring in speakers, so very similar to the way like the Masjid operates. They try to bring in speakers to give halaqas and talk about what it's like to be Muslim, and to just create dialogue. During Ramadan, they try to make iftars as well. So it's really just a different version of the Masjid.
It really helped me a lot
Yeah.
when I entered school because I was so confused at that time. And having people like myself helped me a lot with like feeling valued in my school. And I think without it, I wouldn't be maybe as successful as I am now with my schooling experiences. It really helped me a lot. Yeah.
I think what they said is right. MSA is kind of like a little masjid because when I went to York University in Toronto, and not only was it like a masjid in the sense that there was everyone from every country, but like for example, alhamdulillah, like our Salat Jum'ah was in the university, but there was about like 450 students. So there's so many people. If you like leave a lecture at like 12:30 and then you have Dhuhr, you'll find like there's a Jama'ah and then another Jama'ah and another Jama'ah and another Jama'ah. So there's all these consecutive Jama'ahs because there's so much people. Depending on where you are, there might be more programs, like people in the area. And they do the same thing as other clubs, extracurricular activities, events, speakers. So like they said, it helps you tailor. And for me personally, it was a good way to, they say when I was in high school, a teacher told me that high school is good. She's like, but when you go to university, that's where you'll find your lifelong connections. So from all the people I met, maybe there's a good around, like, I have a group called York Brothers. And there's like a good like 50 people in. Every time there's a walima and a aqiqah and everything. So you got all this stuff, you got all these invitations, you might travel. So depending on where you guys go, if you're staying local or going somewhere, you'll always meet people that are different, and it'll give you strength in the society we live in now because you'll be more connected on like a spiritual, but also you're in a greater environment. You're supposed to be academically stimulated. People will ask you about Islam, people will question your religion, people will ask you many things that, like Isa said here, that we have to know because it's important to explain that nothing happens for a reason. Everything has its wisdom and its hikmah. And Allah, nothing just happens randomly or just spontaneously for no reason. And they're going to question that because it's a culture where you have to think. People are going to come at you thinking that what you're believing is so spontaneous. So it's important, alhamdulillah. And people keep you together. Like that Brother Malik's presentation, alhamdulillah, said you're on the religion of your friends. So it's in another way, it's really just habits. If your friends are studying, you're studying. If your friends are like active, like extracurricular activities, you'll do that. If they're just good people, you'll be good people. And here, sometimes in our cultures, people always say, don't hang out with this person, don't hang out with that person, people will judge you. It's because people judge you by the people you're around. So, alhamdulillah, it's good to keep in mind. It's a good place to keep lifelong connections. Even university in general, not always with just Muslims, but university, you'll find a lot of people who will, because your interests are more streamed, you'll find people in your life, alhamdulillah, that you might keep as friends longer in life. I've seen a hand. Hold on. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were raising your hand. Okay, I also have a very good experience with MSF. Actually, when I came to Canada, I was late for school for 2 weeks because I came like somewhere in 15th September. And actually, I didn't know anyone let alone from Brock University, but even from, let me say, from even St. Catharines. So it was actually quite hard for me even to know where to pray in the school. Like it is through MSA that I came to know that there was a masjid called Masjid Al-Noor, and that's where I work, today, alhamdulillah. So it's actually very important if you join university. It's actually very, very important that your first few days, usually they have orientation week, and in the orientation week you might find that a table set aside for MSA. So it's actually good to to be very involved, to participate actually like their meetings, and of course they will really help you. That's where you actually find that you will start now having friends, and actually all my friends, over 50, like 70, all of them actually came through MSA. So to be part of MSA actually is very, very helpful, and they really help a lot, especially if you are like from outside the country. Yeah.
Brother, I think you should sit up here with us. Why don't you come? Seriously, I think you have good experience with
Thank you.
university.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
May I add just a bit of perspective and come to the front?
Yes.
As a chaplain at the detention center? Okay.
Of course, well.
Because you guys, university students, high school students, you're starting a new experience. And in that new experience, you're going to face a lot of temptations. Because as you're getting older, there's going to be two things that are very important to your lives over the next few years. And these temptations lead some young fellows to be seen by me as young as 18. And those two temptations are very simple. For the guys, especially, young ladies, and alcohol and drugs. And that's a little bit of the elephant. I don't know if you're addressing that, Yasmin. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Not much actually, so if you want to elaborate, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. I will say 8 out of 10 of the young Muslims that I've met in the detention center, which is a prison, are there because of young ladies or alcohol and drugs. Did you get that number?
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, that's 4 out of 5. So when the slide was brought to you by Sister Sarah saying that alcohol is a bit of a problem, it's a big problem. And Allah has told us to stay away from it, not to punish you, but to help you. And you will be ahead of every one of those classmates, those friends that are taking part in those type of things. And so from that perspective, and it's very sad when I see young, bright people stuck by, especially the alcohol and the drugs. But also, a lot of times they're there because of the young ladies. So be very careful in how you choose your friends. Be careful in the decisions that you make, what you think is going to be fun, because it does have long-term consequence. And that's the negative part of it. But the experience that you're going to be going through in the next few years, you're going to be making important decisions for the rest of your life. They will impact, they will have consequence. So you already, because you are here, are telling us as a community that you're thinking about these things. And I'm saying from someone who has experience that, yes, your thinking is correct, and you are here because you want to live a better form of life, and it is a better form of life. So, any questions about that aspect of it? I wanted to address the elephant in the room. Any questions about that?
It's okay to ask the question. It starts right off
they
in
know
high
it's
school.
okay. They know
In
it's
high
okay.
school starts off, kids already start partying in high school. It's the norm.
Oh.
Even
30 to 40%
In junior high. I was
are
looking
already
at
imparting with drugs and alcohol in grade 9. 30 to 40%. It's very high.
What is the youngest age you can go, like, as the people go to the detention center at? Like, what's the
18.
18?
Yeah,
And
otherwise
how-
they're treated in what's called the juvenile system. So what I'm seeing are 18 and above adults.
What's the difference between a detention center and a jail? Like, what's the difference?
Detention center is when you have no family supports and you have no way to get bail, you sit in a detention center until the trial. If they feel that you're not going to show up to court, you'll be detained in the detention center. You'll be kept there, and it's a jail. It's outright a jail.
What do you guys think about class attendance in universities? Is it important or not so important? Right? Keep in mind that they don't take attendance. Is it important or not important?
It is.
Why?
Because if you don't go, you're depriving from your own learning.
Exactly. What were you gonna say?
Well, how are you gonna learn this stuff if you don't go?
Believe it or not, a lot of people don't see that's actually logical in university. So one thing that you will see a lot is people try to get away with skipping class, and you'll be amazed by how creative they can get, right? So for first things first, a lot of profs tend to offer their lectures online, which is good, I guess, if you want to review, but not all profs do that. And even if they did, if I were to just show you my PowerPoint like this, do you think that you would have been able to benefit from it as though like in comparison to me being here actually presenting it? No, right? So that's the case with classes. Just seeing PowerPoint slides online isn't necessarily going to help you benefit from the course. You know, the other thing is when you're able to go there, as I was saying, your professor picks up on who you are. That helps you too. Like when your professor is able to say, oh yeah, that student's always there in class. I'm gonna spend another 10 minutes just so I can answer that person's questions. Whereas opposed to someone who never goes and goes to the prof the day before class and like, the day before exam and say, I have questions. And we're like, well, where were you all year? Right? Again, profs are people, right? They have personalities and they will want to help people that actually come to their class. So just because they don't take attendance in lecture doesn't mean you should skip, right? Again, when you go to lecture, that develops a good habit, okay? And you can often tell quite a bit about how the professor will test you based on their teaching style, the way that they're teaching you. Do they tell you, refer to the textbook, or do they tell you, like, this is something that I'm going to say only in class, nobody else will pick up on? You definitely don't want to miss out on those details. So, if anybody else wants to elaborate here, I'm pretty sure you guys know.
Another myth sometimes I come across is that university is easy and whatnot, and that you won't face many challenges. Now, I look around this room and mashallah, like I see a lot of bright faces and I see so much potential in all of you, mashallah. Like I'm so excited for our next generation. The thing is, like when we enter any type of post-secondary education, it won't be easy, but it is doable and you're all capable. And through challenges we face, that's the best kind of education, and that's where we learn the most wisdom. So don't let challenges deter you. Look at them as a great learning opportunity. There's wisdom in every challenge we have. So it's just being prepared for the challenges that is really important, I think. And not thinking you won't face any, because we will, and that's life, so.
You should have stayed in high school. They call them teachers, so I would suggest that.
I just wanted also to highlight something about class attendance. As Sister said, actually, first of all, it's very important. Some professors might not actually mark. Maybe there is no mark set aside for attendance. But that's actually where you can establish a relationship between you and the professor. What happened, I do business administration major and computer science minor. So what happened is that I had a friend, and he was an international student from Saudi Arabia. And what happened, he never used to come to class because he found that maybe the class is the professor is kind of boring or maybe wasting his time. So what happened is that one day, we came to class, and what happened is that they were actually in a very few students who were in class. The professor started now saying, you know what? We have what do you call reflection test, and this is actually like 20% of your final. It was not there in the what do you call like in the syllabus, and then all of a sudden, most of the students missed. So sometimes even even that friend of mine actually failed the course and he has to redo the course again. So sometimes professors, if they realize that students are not actually coming to class, they can change their mind and they can do something which is not actually like already written in the syllabus. And no one can talk to them. They are above, I don't know if they're above the law, but trust me, if you try to argue with your professor and you try to win against him or her, you'll always be the loser. So class attendance is actually very, 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 very important.
I just wanted to add one more point to elaborate on that. So a lot of professors, they're in university teaching, but that's not the primary goal of their career. Their primary focus is their research. A lot of profs actually don't like to teach, believe it or not, right? They're more so involved in their science and their research. They'd rather be in the lab, getting out more findings and more publications. But in order for them to stay in the university, they need to teach, okay? So that's why you really want to put up your best impression forward to the profs, especially when, teaching is not really the main thing of their career, all right? And that goes back to my point where, not all profs are going to be amazing, and not all profs will be bad. There will be great profs. You'll have profs who really, really enlighten you and leave an impact on you, and you'll have profs that'll just walk in and walk out of your life. So definitely, all in all, despite whether you like the prof or not, try to be that student that attends lecture. Be there, to ask questions. Again, I used to make up questions just so that I can make my face familiar with the prof. And usually it worked out to my favor. So, yeah.
As a young Muslim wearing hijab, did you have any issues in university?
Well, going to university, starting off and not knowing much about what an MSA is and not knowing, where I can turn to for prayer and such, those things sometimes gave me a little bit of a struggle because it was kind of like what Sada was talking earlier. There's parts of your identity that you want to fulfill, but you're just not really seeing them in the environment. So I think that was one of my earlier struggles, but when I started getting to know people, and when I started learning about, the MSA and learning about there's a space for prayer, that helped. And then the other thing was coming from Kuwait, as I was saying earlier to some friends, people tend to have really hostile images of North America, that, people are out there to get Muslims or people are not really, accommodating. And so I kind of came with a bit of that mindset. I was a little worried that, people would talk to me because of my hijab and all that. And so I would say that having that mentality was my struggle. Sometimes you need to get yourself out of that victim perspective in order for you to actually feel like you're accomplishing. Because I met a lot of people who tend to victimize themselves, and I totally get it. We are living in a troubling time, and it's really easy to be accused of doing something just because you're Muslim. That's true. But that shouldn't be the only thing in your mind when you're going to university. Oh, she just looked at me, it's the hijab. Or the prof is not helping me with this assignment, it's because I'm Muslim. Honestly, having that mentality doesn't do you any good. Either you develop the courage and learn what you need to learn to pass whatever obstacle you're facing, or having that mentality just won't let you do well in whatever it is you're in. So I would say that was really my struggle, trying to pull myself out of that mentality so that I can just enjoy university for what it is and make connections because of who I am. And alhamdulillah, that's what benefits me in the long run.
I just wanted to add a comment about your asking questions, because people think that they're stupid if they ask a question, or they didn't read the chapter before, so they should really ask the question. But the prof, you don't even actually have to make up a question. If you read something and it leads to another thought, and you want to just expand on that, the prof loves it because it shows that you're interested in the topic. Most people look like they're dead there, or they're on their internet and they're surfing. That's one thing, that people are surfing the net and it's very distracting. So if you're actually interested, the prof cares because some of them like to teach and they're happy when people listen. So I think you don't really have to make up questions because if you're actually reading, you will have questions. I also encourage you not to get caught by surfing the net because a lot of people come and sit there and they're not able to focus. They're instant messaging or they're texting, and it's actually distracting to the other students who are around when this is going on. So come and listen because the prof will also emphasize what's important in all this text. Because they'll just tell you what's in the text, but what's going to be important, you may not know what's important.
Thank you. I think it's also important to just be ready because some professors will not, for that reason, will not allow you to bring digital electronics to the class. So if you have your laptops, they'll you put your laptops away, put your laptops in your bag and your phone, and if you take it out, you'll be asked to leave. So just, I know we're in an age of like digital information, everyone goes and is back to school, buys a nice laptop and everything, but also be prepared that you might have to go back to paper and pen. So just be aware of what's going on because I think it's a reoccurring theme that professors are people and they may be like the authority in their own class, and it differs from person to person. Some will let you eat in lecture, some if you come late you have to wait until the break, so you miss an hour and a half of the course. So just be ready to know them and then know how to act towards them in the weeks that come after that. Any other? So now I know you guys did high school and university. We just talked for about 2 hours. Now when we say university, what are the things that come to mind for you guys? And we're going to do the food thing again. So we'll start with Muhammad. University.
Big place.
Big place. Isa?
Volunteering.
Making
Okay.
connections for your future life.
Hmm?
A lot like high school too. Go forever to university.
Hassan? Anything. University. What comes to mind? Work hard? Okay.
Lectures.
Hours of study.
People on the sister side? What comes to mind when you hear the word university? First thing that comes to mind. Yeah.
Attendance for sure.
Focus, yeah. And back to school. Anybody back there? Any of the adults with us? Doctor?
I think it was one of the best times of my life. Love to learn, get to do so much. It's best time of your life. Challenge. The world. Career.
Brother Anthony?
Expanding the brain.
Opportunities.
Okay, mashallah. So these are the things that will come in your head. So you might think of something someone else said because we just went back again, right? So alhamdulillah, we hope that when you go back and you think of these things, you have more of these kind of terms that interconnect. So working hard, being focused, investment, you're paying money. And the really important thing to remember is that you are paying money. I know with high school you're not paying money because you're spending your parents' money. But with university, you're paying your own money. So it's good to be aware of that. With attendance, one thing that's really important to let you guys know, as from my own TA experience, people come to the university and they spend their money, but they're very shy. And it's important to kind of be able to interact because we have this, either two things happen. You're very shy and you don't want to speak. And I've had personal professors say if students come to seminar and they don't speak, fail them. So me personally, I've never failed because I try to do these things, interact with you, make you say random things, what's on your mind, we talk about food, and then you feel comfortable, and then you talk about the readings in the material. And knowing your professor is good, and they jump from character to character, and person to person, and rules to rules, because that's kind of their domain.